they gain 50 to 60 pounds, they're fat, and now they call it an off season. That's not an off season, that's a fat season. We ain't trying to get fat up in here, okay? We want to be able to see our weenies. What's up, guys? Chris McGowan here, McGowanFitness. These are the top 5 things that I, as an IFBB pro, wish I would have known before starting to compete at all. Check this out. All right, the number one thing on this list has to be the cost of competing. Now, I talk to a lot of my clients about this because the cost of competing can be ridiculously high, and if you're not prepared for that, it can be a huge blow to your pockets. Now, you have to take into account not only having a coach, but the cost of the hotel, the travel, and the competition itself, the spray tan if you're not doing your tan yourself, and your hair and makeup if you're a woman. All of these things can play into it, and it can cost literally thousands of dollars to just do one single show. This is why I always suggest that if you're going to compete, you do shows that matter. You do the biggest shows that you possibly can, and do shows that you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck from. All right, that's my number one. The cost can be tremendous on that wallet. Now, when it comes to competing, number 2 would have to be how selfish you have to be to actually be good at competing, be good in bodybuilding. Now, bodybuilding is unlike any other sport that is ridiculously selfish to one single person. You have to take into account eating is a 24-hour thing. You have to make sure that you're hitting the gym hard. You have to make sure that if you hold a job, that you make sure that you're producing in that job. Now, these things all combined can make you a very selfish individual, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to understand that going into it, that you're not going to be able to do some of the things that you would normally do with your friends or with your family. You know, you're going to be tired all the time. You have to take these things into account when going into it, because it can get demanding and it can take up a lot of your time. Number 3, the amount of time needed to diet. This goes for men and women. It can take some time for you to get stage ready. And a lot of times when you go to some smaller shows, you'll see people that are up on stage that probably shouldn't be there, probably needed a couple of more weeks before they were actually stage ready. Now, when I'm talking about stage ready, I mean completely dialed in. If you're going into your peak week and you're quote unquote holding water, then you're not stage ready. You should go into your shows completely peeled if that's what you're going for. If it's not what you're going for, then, you know, so be it. But if you're going for a certain look, you need to make sure that you're ready for that look. And also, adding a couple more weeks to your prep won't hurt you. Pushing your show back won't hurt you. If you can stay on track and you can do the things that you need to do, you're going to come out a lot better, and you're going to look a lot better for your stage time. And that's the biggest thing. If you're going to diet for 26 weeks or 30 weeks, you want to make sure that that dieting is worth something to you and gets you to a point to where you're happy with the look. Number 4 on the list, training smarter. Now, I see it all the time. I see people going into shows and they're dragging themselves through this whole, like, I need to sacrifice as much as possible to get ready for a show. No one's asking you on stage on show day if you sacrifice more than anybody else, because no one honestly gives a damn. You got to make sure that you're training smart. You got to make sure that you're taking care of your body and you're doing things that are going to optimally get you to where you want to go. Now, there's always going to be a dumb way and a smart way to get somewhere. You got to make sure that you're trying to stay on the smartest side as much as possible. That takes into effect getting enough rest. If you're doing 2-a-days, which I'm not a real big fan of unless you're separating your cardio and your workouts, you want to make sure that you're getting what you need to get out of it and getting out of the gym. You don't need to be there all day long. If you're there all day long, something isn't right. Something's not right at all. You never should spend 6 to 7 hours in the gym trying to work out. That's ridiculous. So make sure that if you're going into a show, that you're training smart, that you're taking in your energy balances, how much energy you're expending versus how much energy you're intaking. All these things play into it. Your metabolic adaptations, all these things play into it. So you got to make sure that you're training smart to get the biggest bang out of your buck and not completely run yourself ragged. Number 5, and I see this all the time. This is probably going to ruffle a couple of feathers. The whole bro diet. Listen, you don't need to eat chicken and broccoli for every meal, or the biggest one, tilapia and asparagus going into a show because it thins the skin. It doesn't thin the skin. Those are all myths. Now, when it comes to dieting, one tried and true thing will always be there, and it's calories in versus calories out. Of course, there's little different caveats of that, and also different avenues that can have an effect on that. But at the end of the day, it's calories in versus calories out. Now, I've dieted myself by myself for shows as a pro and as an amateur to even get my pro card using flexible dieting. Now, it works, it's tried and true, and I promise you, it allows you to have more leeway with your day and enjoy foods that you normally wouldn't enjoy, definitely wouldn't enjoy on a bro diet. Because of that, when you come out of prepping for that show, that you don't have so many crazy cravings. Now, I see people all the time, they do their first show and they do a bro diet type of diet. They eat broccoli and asparagus, they hate their meals, they're boiling chicken, and when they get out, they gain 50 to 60 pounds, they're fat, and now they call it an off season. That's not an off season, that's a fat season. We ain't trying to get fat up in here, okay? We want to be able to see our weenies. We ain't trying to get fat up in here. We want to be able to still look in the mirror and be somewhat in shape, and and be able to not have an eating disorder. Now, eating disorders happen all the time with competitors, and that's a whole nother video in itself. If you want me to go into that, just leave a comment below. But eating in general needs to be taken care of, and we need to exit the show like we came into the show, being able to control our habits and be able to control our eating. All right, now these are the 5 things that I wish I would have known before starting, because I've done all these things. I've literally followed the bro diet my first show, and it was ridiculously excruciating. I hated every second of it. I've trained 6 hours a day thinking it was going to help, and it didn't help at all. It actually burned me out. I've spent thousands of dollars competing, obviously, and you got to make sure that you taking these 5 things into account when you're going to compete, because these will help you decide where you want to go, what show you want to do, and how far you want to take it. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. If there's anything else that you want to see or want to hear about, let me know. Peace.